The content of the Planning Your Search Strategy workshop is covered in this video. By the end of the workshop, you will be able to identify keywords or key concepts in your research topic. You'll be able to suggest synonyms to develop your search strategy, apply search tools in order to be able to develop your systematic search strategy. What this session doesn't cover is how to use library search at a basic level, or how to use ebooks, how to plan your research project, or how to write about your search strategy within your research project. Book a place at relevant workshops or use other alternative resources to support you with these things. So why do you need to develop this skill to plan a systematic search strategy? There are a number of assignments that will require you to plan a systematic search strategy and then write about how you did that. This might be your final year project if you are an undergraduate student. You might be asked to do a literature review or a systematic review. If you are a master's student, then your dissertation will require this. And if you are a PhD student, then your PhD thesis, your research project that you're undertaking there, will require this process. If you're not sure whether this is required, check your assignment brief and have a chat with a lecturer or your research supervisor. When we're developing a search strategy, what is it that we're actually searching for? The diagram on the right of the screen here is showing the information cycle, the information timeline, and it shows how information develops over time. You'll see there's a line cutting through that process. And below that line, we have scholarly journals, research papers, and then books. Those are academic sources, and it's those that we are looking for when we are developing a search strategy. It will be those kinds of resources that your assignment will be expecting you to review as part of your research project. Developing a systematic search strategy will enable you to find the information that's most relevant for your topic that you're researching. You will have a topic that you will be researching. You might have come up with this yourself, or it might have been assigned to you. Make sure you have a strong understanding of that topic. You should identify the key concepts that are within that topic. We're going to have a look at that in a moment. And you should carry out a scoping search using library search that will allow you to find out what information is already out there, what research has already been carried out on this topic. Doing that will enable you then to either adjust your question or your topic and to move forward with your search strategy as appropriate. It might be useful at this stage to do a mind map of the topic so that that will help you to identify the key concepts. So let's identify the key concepts in a topic. There's an example topic here. Discuss the ways in which microplastics have impacted the environment. Take a moment, pause the video, and just see if you can identify what the three key concepts are within this topic. Okay, so you'll have written your ideas down. I'm going to reveal what we've decided. The first key concept is microplastics. The second is the impact that they have. And then the third is the environment. Those are the three key concepts within this topic. We might need to think slightly differently about impact and actually put something more specific onto what that impact is in order as to focus the search. So I've put a question mark next to pollution here. Now, another way of identifying the key concepts is to use a research framework. I'm going to give you some examples. We have PICO, where the P stands for population or patient, the I stands for intervention, the C stands for comparison, and the O stands for outcomes. This one is often used in healthcare topics. There is CMO, context, intervention, mechanisms, and outcome, which is often used in business. CHIP stands for context, how, issues, population, and is often used in psychology. And CLIP, client, location, improvement, professional. This can be used in lots of situations, but is often used in an economic context. There are other frameworks, and the search strategy fact sheet that you can find on the library's systematic review guide has information of some others. It's a good idea to read books on research methods, which also discuss these frameworks to help you decide which one to use. Now, which of these do you think matches our topic about microplastics? Which of those letters, which of those elements can you identify within the question? Have a go at this, pause the video. So the framework that we've matched to this topic is CIMO. The context is the environment, the intervention is microplastics. The mechanism wasn't actually mentioned, but as we mentioned before, this is pollution could be used in this context, even though it's not mentioned in the question. And then the impacts or the outcome of this intervention. Now, what we've done here is identified the key concepts within this question. So we started off doing that ourselves just by looking at the question, but we've now got an additional factor that we can build in. So now we've identified the key concepts, we now need to consider synonyms. Synonyms are words that mean the same or relate to the key concepts that you've identified. And this is really important because you can't assume that other authors writing about this topic have used the same words that you've identified as your key concepts. We need to explore all the other ways there are of discussing this. So you can pause the video here and see if you can think of some possible words that you could use in place of the three key concepts that are on the screen. Okay, let's have a look at the list that we've identified and see if you've got any the same. These are some words that relate to microplastics. We have some words that are talking about the impact and the mechanism, the pollution. And finally, the environment. So you may have some additional words. This is definitely not an exhaustive list. And in fact, as you are scoping searching, you may well identify more synonyms that you can build into your search strategy. This is a flexible process. The next step is to consider the use of search tools. We're first going to look at Boolean operators. They are the words and, or, and not. And we'll look at some examples and then talk through the diagram on the screen. So if we are using the word and, that will narrow our search. If we just search for one of our key concepts, we're going to get many results. But bringing in the others, using and, it means that that number is going to go down. We want microplastic and pollution and environment. The diagram shows some sports terms, GAA and hurling, and you'll see the red highlighted part of those two circles. We will only find results that mention both of those things. Or, however, will broaden the search. We might say microplastic or synthetic or acrylic or artificial. All of those were in our synonym list for microplastic. The diagram shows that if we say soccer or football, it will show us all results that mention one or the other. Some of them will mention both, but some of them will only mention one of those terms. So it will get a wider range of results. Not, however, will exclude a word from our search. So we might say not forests. We might be looking at the impact of microplastics on the environment, but not in forest environments. The diagram shows that if we say football, not rugby, it will show us results that only mention football, and it will exclude them if they mention rugby at all. This could be something that you can use if you've got a lot of noise in your search. That's kind of a related thing, but it's not what you're focused on. There are other search tools. We've got speech marks, we've got an asterisk, a truncation, and we've got a wildcard, which is a question mark. We can use speech marks around a phrase to keep that phrase together. So some examples here are climate change, carbon footprint, carbon neutral. If we use the phrase natural environment without speech marks, we will have the word natural and the word environment, but they may be apart within that document. Putting them in speech marks, natural environment as a phrase, we will get those two words together. The truncation lets you search for words with different endings of the same root word. So the word nature, for example, we can take the E off the end and replace it with this asterisk, and it will search for nature and natural. If we do the same with the word pollution, and so we search for pollute, P-O-L-L-U-T, and then the asterisk, it will search for pollution, polluting, polluted, pollutant. The wildcard allows us to search for alternative spellings of words. So in America, aluminium is spelt aluminum. We can replace the difference with the question mark, and it will search for both words. It means we haven't got to search for both of those spellings independently of each other. So this is what we've done so far. We've highlighted the importance of that initial scoping search. We've identified key concepts. We've identified synonyms that relate to those key concepts. And we've introduced the concept of search tools, Boolean operators and, or, and not, and speech marks, asterisk or truncation, and the wildcard, the question mark. There is a lot to think about here, but this is why it's important not to panic, because we're going to look at how we can bring all of those things together now, and it's a piece of cake. Now, this is a document that will help you to develop your search strategy. As you're watching the video, I recommend you pause it here and use the QR code to open the document. And once you've done that, save a copy to your own device. So here is that document. First thing to do, go to File, save a copy, choose either your OneDrive or your own PC, and then save a copy. You won't be able to edit the version that you've just opened. The first page is an example. The page below is blank, so that you can use that for your own search strategy design. So we've got the topic at the top of the page. We've then got a list of our key concepts and the synonyms that we've identified to go with those. And then we've got a chart, and the chart has got each key concept on a separate row. So row 1 is microplastics, row 2 is environment, row 3 is pollution, and there's a fourth row if you need it, or you can use that to limit the results if they're too high. You might include a date range, or if it was relevant, choose people characteristics or a location. It might be a part of the globe that you're focusing on your discussion on microplastics, for example. And what we can do is think about this as if it's a cake. The top row is the top part of the cake. The middle row is the jam and the cream in the middle of the cake. And the bottom row is the bottom layer of the cake. If we are then to take a slice of cake, we get a little bit of each of those key concepts. We can then take another slice. You will see on the left-hand side that we've got the word and. So if we are searching the first key concept in the top row, microplastic, we're then going microplastic and environment and pollution. Synthetic and natural environment and contamination. Acrylic and ocean and deterioration. The way to make it systematic, however, will be to make sure that we cover all of the synonyms in our search. And we do that by swapping one synonym at a time. So we might start with microplastic and environment and pollution, but then we need to change one of our synonyms. So we might say synthetic and environment and pollution, and then acrylic and environment and pollution. And we do that for all of the synonyms for microplastic until we've exhausted all of those. We then come back to our original slice of cake, and this time we might go microplastic, natural environment, pollution, microplastic and ocean and pollution, and so on until we've used all of the synonyms for our environment. And then we would say microplastic and environment and contamination, microplastic and environment and deterioration, again until we've used all of the synonyms that relate to pollution. Doing it this way will mean that we have absolutely the best chance of finding all the research that relates to all of those keywords. So we're going to use library search for our demonstration of this. So on the library homepage, I've gone to the library search box and I've put our first cake slice, microplastic and environment and pollution, into the search box. I'm going to filter for journal articles, and I'm going to use a publication date filter for the last 5 years. And because we're going to keep on repeating our search, I'm going to remember all filters, and now I don't need to change those filters and put them in every single time I search. I can change the search. We'll always look in journal articles and always within this date range. And we can see we're getting results that are talking about pollution from microplastics. And we can see the keyword is highlighted. I'm going to change the first synonym. I'm going to take off microplastic and I'm going to use the word synthetic. And again, we've got, this time we can see the word synthetic is being used in our search results. And now I'm going to put in our third key concept for microplastic. So here we are, we're getting acrylic. We would now systematically search through all of the other synonyms for microplastic before returning to microplastic and then swapping out our environment synonym. So again, we can see that that is bringing up relevant results. And when we've explored that, we can then search our next environment synonym. And we're now getting very, very specific results relating to a specific environment, in this case, the ocean. We would then search each additional synonym for the environment before bringing this back to where we started, and then finally changing our last key concept. So we're looking for contamination here. You can see that word coming through. And then we would look at our third one. Can't see the key concept in the titles, but we're starting to see it come through in the abstract. It's really important to record the details of your searches and the number of results that you get as you go. Now, the other way to do this would be to use the or at the bottom of the diagram. You might have noticed we talked about the and, but we haven't yet talked about this or at the bottom. We can say microplastic or synthetic or acrylic, or, and then all the other synonyms for that key concept, and environment, or natural environment, or ocean, or, and then all the other synonyms for that key concept, and pollution, or contamination, or deterioration, or, and then all the synonyms for pollution. Now, it's a good idea to build that search in a word processor. So I've done that here in Word. You can see our first key concept here. I've put it in brackets with all the ors in between each of the synonyms for microplastic. I've then got and then I've got another set of brackets in which all the synonyms for the environment are included, each of them with an or in between. And then we've got another and then finally, in the final set of brackets, we've got all the synonyms for pollution. If I copy that search string, come back to library search and paste it in, I'm now finding all the articles that are relevant to this particular topic, exploring all of the options for the synonyms that I have asked it to look at. Your assignment will require you to write up your search strategy, your search methodology, to show how you went about finding the information that you're reviewing in your assignment. There are research design books in the library that will talk about this, that will help you to identify how to write, how to describe this in your own writing. So do explore those to help you with that process. In summary, to develop your systematic search strategy, you need to have a good understanding of your question or your topic. You need to identify the key concepts within that topic, and then identify synonyms that relate to each of those concepts. You apply search tools and, or, and not, the Boolean operators, and speech marks, truncation, and wildcard. And then search systematically by either changing one synonym at a time, or by building a search string using brackets and ors in between each of those synonyms. Use research design books to help you develop your write-up of your search strategy. And the best thing to do now will be to have a practice. Start with your scoping search to get a feel for the topic. Identify synonyms from the results that you find, and then use this strategy to develop your effective systematic search. Don't forget to explore other workshops and their videos that might be useful to you. We do have one on writing a literature review and on doing your research project, so they may be useful for you.